Today we're talking about snow mold, what it is, how it's created, how to prevent it, and what to do if you have it.
There are generally two types of snow mold that we hear a lot about. The first one is pink snow mold, and the second one is a gray snow mold. The gray snow mold is the Typhula species, and it generally attacks the blade. And it can, if you look really close at the blade, you can tell that it has this type of snow mold because the blade will have little black or dark brown specks on it, and that's the actual fungus. And this usually happens between 32 and 36 degrees Fahrenheit is when this type of mold is growing. You can recognize it on your grass because you have big white patches or sometimes yellow patches of grass that are out there. It's generally the grasses that are most susceptible to this is your perennial rye and some of your bent grasses.
Now, pink snow mold, it's very different from the gray ones because you're going to see it and it's usually starts red and brown and it looks wet. The grass looks wet, and then as it comes in, it's usually white and pink. The white is a little pinkish tinge to it, but sometimes you will have a pretty all-out white color to it, and then often around the edges you'll see a red to brown color. And pink snow mold usually shows up about 30 to 50 degrees, and it's a lot more prevalent on Kentucky bluegrass.
All right, so Lorenzo, what causes snow mold?
So snow mold is created when you have a warm soil putting off that heat and it gets trapped on those in that grass blade area underneath an insulating natural barrier.
So essentially what you're saying is if like this year the ground is warm, it hasn't really totally frozen, and as the ground is as it starts to snow, then that snow keeps and traps that heat in there. So as it comes out of the ground, that heat is getting stuck between the snow and the soil in that thatch and that mat layer. And that's really creating an atmosphere for that fungus to thrive.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so it's just going to sit in that heat until either the natural barrier is removed so it can breathe and grow into it, or until the soil is cool enough that there's no heat to really be caught between the soil and the snow.
So what temperature are we looking at for this soil so that this doesn't happen?
Kind of like we've said, between 30 and 50 degrees, you'll get both snow molds in that temperature range. But if you can get below 23 degrees, that's when everybody notices that you don't get that snow mold.
All right. So if you have these insulating barriers, what are some of the things that cause those barriers?
So we usually get, that you'll get the leaf buildup, you'll get either long grass that hasn't been mowed or matted down, or you have packed snow or snow that's been piled up too much and it starts to insulate itself and it doesn't just melt off with the natural cycle of snow, sun, snow, sun. Most of the time during the warm parts of the early winter, you will have it melt away unless you've piled it up. And so when you have piled it up, that will insulate and keep that warmth coming off the soil insulated right on top of that grass underneath the snow pile itself. So that's why we'll generally see, once the snow pile finally melts in the spring, that's usually around where we see those moldy patches is along the sides of the parking lots or the sidewalks where we've piled them too early on in the season.
Yeah, definitely susceptible at that time of year. And really the best way to beat the fungus is to prevent it. Just like with most stuff that happens with your lawn, if you see it, you should have been able to avoid it 3 to 6 months before. And this is no exception. So when you're having warm temperature, ground temperature, you can put down a chemical that's going to avoid and help control this fungus from growing underneath the snow. You can put this down in the fall right before it snows. And we've included a list of these in the descriptions if you want to click on any of those links. Also, raking your leaves in the fall and making sure your lawn is mowed are some great ways to prevent that as well.
And if you've already found that you have it, it's late winter, early spring, maybe it's even middle of spring. By the time you go out there and you find matted patches of grass that are these colors, these yellow colors, these white colors, these pink colors, or it's these orangish colors, and you're noticing that it's snow mold, there's little you can do. Again, Department of Ag will always support that label is the law, and so if the label says it treats it at that point, you can use the chemical on it, but a lot of extension agents and professors will talk about the minimal effects you get from chemicals in the springtime on that snow mold. So the best thing that you can do is go and rake it out, let air and sunlight get its way into there, break up those fungal sections, and prepare to overseed. And that'll be a spot that'll probably die out a little bit, and you will need to overseed. And if it's really bad, you may need to just cut out those spots and just resod those spots. But lots of times, if you rake it early enough, you catch it early enough, seeding will thicken it up before the fall even happens.
All right, we hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button. Also, down in the description, we've listed a bunch of chemicals and a bunch of different sources that this information has come from. So make sure to check out the description. If you have any comments, feel free to leave those. We'll get to them as well. What other content do you want to see? Let us know. And we're excited, and good luck out there.